Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 19th of August, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar. It's continuing to climb on the short-term charts. We've got quite a nice trend there, very clearly medium and long-term bullish. The dollar is still uh, the strength that we're seeing in currencies. A euro weaker against that dollar, just nudging that 111 level this morning. That's quite a critical mark for the euro. Looking at the Japanese yen, we're seeing the dollar holding its short-term strength here, although medium and long-term it's not as bullish here. Sterling has climbed a little bit this morning. We're 121.50, 121.20 at the moment. So we have seen a bit of an improvement there, but the long and medium term charts are still very bearish. And against the euro, we're stronger as well this morning, short-term bullish. So we are seeing a little bit of an improvement, and the same on the Swiss franc. Looking at Bitcoin, we're back above that $10,000 level, $10,700. So we're back into bullish short-term territory. We've got targets to around 11,000. So it looks like we will go higher this week. Stock markets had a pretty turbulent week last week. In fact, we've had a pretty turbulent month in August. We look at the weekly chart here. We see the fall away that we've seen. And we really just haven't recovered. So we've fallen to this support level and we're teetering on the support. So this is really the critical thing: is will we make a new low? New lows would be bad for the market. We saw on Thursday that we were nudging that low that we'd seen the week before, and that's what's critical, to keep an eye on that. We look at the Nasdaq, much the same picture. The medium and long-term charts are still holding bullish. It's just that we are testing that medium-term support level. And looking at the Dow, again, similar picture, bouncing here on the support level on the lagging line of the cloud, just starting to come through on the price. So still too early to say whether support has been broken, but the markets are a little bit on a knife edge. Looking at the Russell 2000, this is the index that is bearish on that medium-term chart and has struggled to get to bullish. And so that is still the concern for the market, is the breadth of improvement in stocks. It's the smaller caps still not catching up. Looking at the futures this morning, the S&P future up 0.8%, the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.9%, so we should see a strong opening on the US market. As a result, we're seeing European markets up strongly this morning. The FTSE up 1%, the 250 up 2/3%. Still bearish on all three time frames here for midcaps in the UK, so that is a consideration. Looking at the DAX, we're up over 1% this morning, and the CAC Quarante up 0.8%. So European stocks out with a strong showing. Japan was up just over 0.5%. The Hang Seng really rocketed up over 2%, but it's still bearish on all three time frames. And the Shanghai market also up 2%. In India, the Sensex is up 0.6%, and that's taking us just into short-term bullish territory. And the Australian market was actually up 1%. Brent crude, this sentiment showing through here as well. We're not back above the $60 level, so we're still bearish, but we are up 1% this morning. The same with WTI, just in that slightly bearish zone. US Nat gas sitting at $2.18, so bullish on the short term, but the medium and long term charts have a lot of work to do to turn bullish. Gold just nudging this $1,500 level this morning, just turning short-term bearish with that improvement in sentiment. So we're seeing a short-term bearish move there, and on silver the same, short-term bearish, but the medium and long-term charts, of course, still bullish. US 10-year yields have improved significantly. They were nudging the 150 mark. They're now back at 161, but not enough to take the chart bullish. So the picture hasn't really changed there. And the Bund, German bonds, just falling back slightly over the last 24 hours or so. Taking a look at individual stocks, we look at Friday on the Dow. We saw here pretty strong rises across the board. 3M were the strongest performer, up nearly 3%. Not enough to change the picture there, though. But all Dow stocks are up on Friday. Looking at the Nasdaq, much the same picture. If we go to the best performers, Nvidia up 7%. So they've had a big move, having really disappointed of late, and that's been quite interesting. Looking at the downside, we only had three stocks down the Nasdaq. AMAT, Applied Materials, they were down 1%. But charts still looking okay on the medium term. Outperforming the market by 30% this year, just recovering from a big long-term phase. So AMAT looking pretty good. Looking at the Aussie market, the best performer was Smart Group, up 21%. So that really jumped. Lend-Lease up 10%. And it's still not bullish on the long-term chart, and Beach Energy up 10%. Again, still not bullish on the long-term chart. Taking a look at the downside, we had BlueScope Steel, they were down 8%, and Omar Limited down 7%. So that chart's still plummeting away there. Looking now to the Indian market, the best performer, Bharati Infratel, they were up 3.3%. Sun Pharmaceuticals up 3%. And if we look at the downside here, Yes Bank yet again are the laggard, and they are still looking terrible on the chart. Looking to European markets now, in UK we've got Ocado Group up 3%. That stock really starting to recover again. Amazing performance long term on Ocado over the last couple of years. It has paused for breath this last few months, but looks like it's set to recover. Still 30% ahead of the Dow Jones Index on performance this year, so even though we've had a fall away, we're still well and truly outperforming. EasyJet, the next one, they're up nearly 3% this morning. Not enough to change the picture there. And if we look at the downside, we only have about 5 or 6 stocks downside. NMC down 2%. Centrica continuing to fall, down 0.4%, plumbing the bottom there, so not looking great. Looking at the midcaps in the UK, we've got CYBG. They're up 6% this morning. Not enough to change the picture here. The same for Metro Bank, up 4%, but the chart still looks dire. Superdry also up 3.7% this morning. The chart still looks dire. So interesting that we're seeing big performances, but overall these charts looking terrible. Wood and Patent Trust down 3.5%, so they're still in the news. Amigo Holdings down 3%, and Sentiment, they're down 3%, although the chart here does look pretty good. Taking a look at Europe now, and if we take a look at the European stocks, BMW, the best performer at the moment, up 5%, and if we look at Intesa in Italy, they're up 2%, and Airbus in Paris also holding on strongly in that chart, and there was the live pricing coming in from Yahoo Finance. And if we look at the downside, a hold group, they're still up. All the European stocks in the top Euro Stocks 50 are up. They're just up slightly, so not as good a performer as the others. That's it for today. Looks like the US will open higher. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.